So I had a perfunctory look at Google this morning to see what the news was, and it's got the Telegraph, the Sun, and many other papers like shouting from the top how the anti-fascist, anti-racist, pro-refugee, hope not hate, which is incidentally, if you change the words around, you'd be nearer the mark, hate not hope. Now, some of those people that go out with them are useful idiots, but some of those are very violent, vicious, unpalatable, nasty pieces of work that just fucking hate everything, and they found a cause to do that. Now, if you look at Hope Not Hate and the people around it are truly Marxists. Now, Marx, what was he? Apart from a failed rabbi and a person with poor hygiene, he was actually a work-shy person who hated the bourgeoisie and yet took funds off them all their life. He was the one that come up with the philosophy Marxism, which, when actually transferred down into communism, which is what it did, killed millions, well over 100 million worldwide. So it's not exactly an ideology I'd be following with any great vigour. Also, the fact that a bloke telling you how to live his life when he can't have a wash in the morning or get a job is a bit like Peter Sutcliffe telling you how to be a better man, or Harold Shipman giving you health tips. It's that kind of ridiculousness, but yet it still carries on, and it truly believes that if people follow the document to the T, then there wouldn't be a problem, and that everybody who's ever been Marxist, or everybody who's ever done communism or socialism, and if you look, they're all much the same, right? Whoever's done this never employed it quite right, but all it does is it attracts violent, narcissistic, sociopathic thugs that believe that what it can do is make everybody else underneath it a slave, and if they don't do what they're told, they're beaten and sometimes taken off to Lubyanka. You want to look up that one. Many went to the Lubyanka, never to be seen again, and some were just fucked off to the Gulag that didn't agree. What they also did was got rid of the intelligent, the thinkers, the writers, the doctors, and anybody who went against it. And what you're seeing at the moment on the streets with Hope Not Hate is a collective organisation that's well organised and funded by the extreme left that comes out in small numbers, right? And you know that they're all fucking misfits, or they're all bitter and twisted. You know, the kind of people that hates English heritage, or hate white people because of slavery, or hate the fucking parents because of reasons or whatever. You know, these were the people that didn't fit in most of their life. And back in our day, they'd have had the shit kicked out of them in school. Not that I condone that, but that's how it would have been. These are the people that are now given a platform because while we were out busy getting fucking drunk, doing pills, and generally getting laid during the 90s, these were the fuckers that were putting themselves in positions of power. And now they do hold the positions of power, but they wouldn't hold the positions of power if the very people at the top didn't see them as useful idiots to transfer us from a prosperous, useful, coherent community of people who want England to do well, or Great Britain, or whatever you want. You could look at it as, because they've used it all over Europe, they've used these fucking morons as a Trojan horse to break down the fabric of society. And they've been out in places like Bristol saying refugees welcome, and you can see them. They're middle class, bitter and twisted Karens, or swamp donkeys, or other just nasty pieces of work. Some of these are champagne socialists, you know, the ones that like to talk a lot of shit at parties and say how they really truly want socialism. And by the way, I have met these fuckers. Alright, then you're gonna go fast now, are you? I met one of these people over in Ireland, right? She had, I think, 4 different salons, was making good dollar. And I said, so you believe in socialism, do you? She went, yes. I said, well, you realise socialism would take your properties from you and distribute that amongst the poor, and, well, it would become the state, if you like, so everybody owned it. Yeah, I'm alright with that. I said, of course you fucking are, because you're nowhere near socialism at the moment and you can talk utter shit. But the moment those cunts came for your fucking property, you'd be screaming like a bitch for somebody to do something. That is how indoctrinated and fucked up, double standard and low moral these cunts are. Now, being as these weak lefty wank stains, and they're mostly weak, there are some fucking art bastards amongst them, alright? You know, let's not fucking make any bones about this. Most of them are weak, most of them want to be in control. And if you ever give a small person power, you can find out quite a lot of the time that they turn into the worst little dictator that you could ever possibly find. Which is why it's usually better to give a strong man who's quite mild the power rather than a weak cunt who's got a chip on his shoulder. But this is still the same thing. And what you're finding now is these people that are coming out to protest that they don't want fascists on their street, and that anybody who goes against the mass migration of wankers into this country is obviously a fascist or a racist. I'm sorry, we don't believe it anymore, but the media have done this and gone through with this to try and convince anybody who's thinking about something ain't right at the moment that you're a racist. By the way, media, if you ever get to see this, nobody's buying it, by the way. The only fucking morons that buy your papers now are lefty idiots that are totally swallowed up by your doctrine. But anybody who lives next door to somebody who's new to the reservation and a fucking problem has been more than enriched. You'll find that they actually have woken up as quickly as, literally, it's like from fucking, like you turned a light on, right? I was looking for a better analogy and I couldn't find one there. But literally, they've woken up overnight. It's a bit like, I had a friend and his brother was extremely left-wing and he went over to Africa. I might have told you this tale before, but for those who haven't heard it, I'll tell you. Total lefty. Went over there, built wells for the Africans, thought he was doing a great job. Come back 3 weeks later, all the parts of the well have been dismantled and sold for guns. Very quickly, he went from being extreme left-wing to very right-wing. Now, what is left-wing? Well, it's a complicated one. Usually, in the old days, it was people who were for progress, for change, for equal rights, for love everybody and peace and unity, right? That used to be the original lefty, you know, a bit of a painter, a bit of an artist, a bit of a dreamer, you know, that kind of stuff. That was the lefties that you would see, say, for instance, at school as a teacher or something like that, right? Now, there were far lefties. Now, these people, they were scum, absolute scum. But many lefties tended to be your hippie type, you know, the ones that just wanted to look like they were peaceful, loving creatures. And what's a centrist? A centrist is essentially somebody that doesn't want to upset either side, wants to be left the fuck alone, and doesn't want his life to be ruined by fucking morons on either side. What is right wing? Well, right wing, it depends if you're centre right or fucking right or far right. Far right, there's very few of them actually in the UK, regardless of what you hear or what you see on TV. Okay? Now, somebody to the right is somebody who wants to conserve his history. They want to keep the status quo. They want the fabric of their fibre, of their community to carry on. They don't want any massive demographic changes. You know, they're all about the preservation of their heritage and the country as it was. And they look back at the country and they remember the great parts. That's generally my understanding of personality-wise right wing. I mean, that's not the political terms, but these are generally the people you'll find on the right. They're people that they're more about looking after here. They're all about looking after their family. They're all about giving a legacy over that was handed to them in good order. All right, that is, the country was given to us in this state, and I don't want to fuck it up and give it to my kids in that state. You'll find that the right usually worry about their kids and their kids' kids and stuff like that. You know, they're thinkers. They've seen a lot of life. But you'll usually find the left want to change stuff. They don't like the way it is. They don't like the way that society is at the moment because it's done them wrong. They're entitled creatures, many of them. They believe that they should actually live without having to work. Why should I pay for something when somebody else will pay for it for me? And this is what entices them about Marxism, stroke socialism, stroke communism, whatever you want to call it. They've been fed a load of bullshit that makes them believe they're going to get looked after. But in truth, when these fucking idiots end up getting sucked into it, they ended up being far worse off than they ever were under capitalism. No, I'm not suggesting capitalism is great. I'm not. Capitalism now, it seems to be quite a mixture of things, doesn't it? Somebody said it was socialism for the rich, yet capitalism for the poor. That is to say that if you're a massive banker or whatever, you can't fail because you get bailed out even when you fuck up. Whereas if you're a little person, it's capitalism all the way. You either fight to survive or you fail. It is what it is. Now, before I go off on a complete tangent, the protests are going to get more and more and more. When you speak to people in Southern Ireland, what you've seen lately is happening all the time, and there is a lot of violence. Nobody wants that, by the way, and I have to keep making this clear because nobody ever wanted society to break down like this. I mean, a conservative right-winger in my day would have never had the net migration as it was. I'd have reduced it down to a fucking bare minimum. And I'd have trained our own people up to be nurses, doctors, engineers and all the rest of it. Rather than going resource rape places like Africa and India just so that we could have cheap doctors and cheap fucking whatever it was that somebody else had paid for. I mean, that's immoral in itself. But I would have had very little immigration into this country. And to be honest, the first people that came over here, say from Africa and India, were sent here to rebuild after the war. Fine. But why is it at that point we were sending our people over to Australia for £10? They were known as the £10 bomb. When our people had the experience, had the skills and all the rest of it, why were we doing that? Well, the plan started then. It was before then, actually, but... And if you had to look through history, you'll see this happening. You'll see so many changes, changing us from what we were, which was a superpower, into this, which will be, eventually, a third world country. Because we'll be bankrupt, half of our people will be out of work, there'll be rioting on the streets whether we want it or not. Nobody wants rioting, believe you and me, nobody. There's only a few psychopaths that actually enjoy going out and kicking fuck out of people, right? Generally speaking, most people want to get on in a peaceful world. Make no illusions about that. And people like myself and many other people on the right do not want what's coming. Not at all. But it's coming anyway, whether I like it or not. But this doctrine that's been pushed down the kid's head to turn against your parents, to grass your parents up if they come out with anything that comes as common sense, has been pushed by Marxists. And it's been pushed for a reason. So that your parents can't educate you about what's right and wrong, and that Marxism is bad. And then slowly but surely, the useful fucking weapons, the tools, the idiots, the left, and some of the hoodwinked kids at school will end up falling for this trap. And slowly and surely we'll end up with a dictatorship. Now, some are taking the piss, including myself, calling Keir Starmer Keir Stalin. But, make no bones about this, Labour will not want another election. Because Labour now have control. And Labour naturally are a conglomerate of different groups. But many in there are true socialists. When I say true socialists, they believe in socialism. The fact that they're living fat off the state, they ignore that part because, well, that's what they do, isn't it? No, they'll be quite happy to see all of you have nothing and be happy. They're all completely wrapped up in this idea, and it's great because the fact that you'll have nothing just makes them more elevated in their idea. Watching you lot, literally with your begging bowl out, begging to be given a bit more food or a bit more whatever, while they're living high on the hog, in their warped, bitter, twisted, sick little minds, means that they're so much better than you. And that's what they need. You ever wonder why drug takers end up going on to stronger drugs? It's because they can't get a kick out where they are. Now, these people want power. When they get power, they want more power. And when they want more power, they want more power. And it's the same with control. Well, we've got this much control over the public. We need more. And then we need more. And then they bring about more and more draconian rules until literally you can't fart without a pass. And they love it. Absolutely love it. They have total power. And they're drunk on it. But if you look at history of what happens to these people, it isn't good. But the people that put them there, the people that organised all this, still walk on scot-free. They walk amongst the raindrops, if you like, and they carry on. They've been going for about a few thousand years. But everybody who you see in power now are useful idiots, disposable tools that literally, if say for instance, God forbid, something went wrong and I don't know, there was some uprising, you could work it out for yourself, right? I can't say it on here. But if something did happen, I say God forbid, I have to say that the people that put them there would just find another load of idiots, bribe them, corrupt them. And they won't bat an eyelid for these people like the Blairs of this world or the, I don't know, the Starmers of this world or whoever else that helped do some of the most shitty things. I mean, if you look at Blair, came into power with some money, left with 150 million. How do you do that on his wages? Simple. You end up getting paid for speeches and all other things because what you've just done is taken us into an illegal war and literally genocided part of the Middle East. Brilliant. And then when it came out that there were no weapons of mass destruction, which we knew because the scientist came out and said it shortly before his demise. And Robin Cook resigned because of it, and then died after. We knew that there were no weapons of mass destruction, and yet they went ahead with it anyway, alright? With the full support of the useful idiots, because 7/7 and 9/11 and stuff like that, alright? Anyway, after they found out there were, nothing happened. No charges, right? And yet millions died. They displaced the fucking half the Middle East and ended up with lots of people fleeing to Europe because of it. Now, when you bomb the fuck out of their country, do you think they're going to come over here and love you for it? Or do you think they're going to come over here slightly pissed, right? Still with their ideology in their mind and still thinking, I'm going to get even with these fuckers and they're going to pay me for it. Well, that's exactly where we are now. Welcome to the new modern world where the turkeys vote for their own Christmas. I can't believe it. It really is. And you know what? I think this is why at school they crushed critical thinking and common sense and told you not to question, to accept. But there were many of us who failed at school, me being one of them. Yeah, I got C's and stuff like that, but I didn't show up half the time and I didn't listen to half of it because it wasn't fucking interesting. And to be honest, I'm a better person for it, thank fuck. But there it is. Anyway, that's quite long enough. I'm going to get on with another shit day of driving around in circles for a wanker. Hey ho. Could be worse.